Hello and welcome to the monthly interview program that features outstanding members of the mineral community, including collectors, dealers, artists, photographers, and more. We aim to shine a light on the lesser-known mineral people that certainly deserve to be shown. This program is presented by the Young Mineral Collectors. I'm your host, Matthew Parshchikov from Cologne, Germany, and this is Under the Radar. Hello everyone. Today's guest is a giant who loves tiny rocks. He has a very developed eye for aesthetics. His collection is large with many small specimens, and for Serbia, where he's from, this is a rather rare sight since there aren't a lot of collectors there who know what a small rock is. And there aren't even a lot of collectors there in general. With patience and a budget of less than €100 per specimen, he has built up a fantastic collection. Our guest is Filip Despic. Hey buddy,
Hello,
what's up?
Matthew. Thank you for introducing me and for the, I would say, nice words. Yeah, I'm pleased to be with you here and to share my passion about minerals that we share as well and to talk about them.
It's my pleasure. Wonderful. So let's start from the beginning. How did you get into collecting?
Well, essentially, I always like to say that mineral collecting for me is an accident. I don't have anyone that was involved in that session or anything. I started by finding a mineral magazine and started by buying one, and I didn't even believe it was real, and the mineral attached to it even real. So like it was the next day at first. Then I started buying another magazine, one more, and then it didn't end. I switched to like some online shopping platforms looking for some cheap minerals, and it
When
started
was
with
that? Which year?
it was like year 2013, I believe. I was still in primary school, and with a really like non-existent budget. I do remember that the first number of the magazine was like, I believe, €1.5, and it had a small amethyst attached to it. And I always thought how it must be fake. Like you can buy a semi-precious stone for like €1.5, especially not with a magazine. Turns out I made a mistake, and I still have the small amethyst at my hometown, like in my initial collection.
Oh,
So yeah,
really?
that's
That's
how
so
I
cool.
started. Yeah, yeah. That could be one of
Wonderful.
my favorites in the collection just because of that reason, yeah. So the rest is yeah, history.
So, how far did it take you to go from this small rock to beautiful, for understanding what a beautiful specimen is?
It took me quite some time, like it's around 10 years of collecting until now. And for the first like year or two, I didn't even know anything about minerals. I always thought I will find them on some random spots and everything. That was the initial like way of collecting. Then when I found out there's like a lot of specimens around and a lot of mineral species in general, I thought that my next goal would be like collecting all of the species that exist. Turns out it's pretty impossible and a pretty terrible way of collecting, in my opinion. So initially, but I do think it had a certain benefit to my collecting because it took me some time to realize it's essentially impossible to get a really good collection of all specimens in existence. Some are really rare, some are like a lot of reasons. And that's when I actually decided that I probably should have some kind of focus or something. So it was a natural path. I would say that at first I knew I had to change something, but I had no idea what it would be because someone would reach out to me and tell me like, "Oh, I have this, I don't know, barite, and I don't have a barite in my collection, and I buy it if I have the funds." Then someone else approaches me and tells me, "Oh, I have this, I don't know, aragonite. I don't have an aragonite in my collection. I get it." If someone else offers me an aragonite, I tell him, no, thank you, I already have an aragonite in my collection, and I move on. So that was a pretty non-experienced way of collecting for me. And to this day, like I switched quite a bit from that initial focus to what I'm doing right now.
So, now you do have a focus. Tell me more.
Yeah, my focus is pretty narrow, I would say, right now, but I still do have quite a few sweets around. I introduced some sweets to try to limit myself from getting a lot of stuff. So essentially, I have 5 sweets right now. Two of them are like a worldwide miniature suite and a worldwide thumbnail suite. Introduced like aesthetic and colorful minerals in those suites. So I would say these two suites are most interesting to people visiting me from outside of the mineral community. They do enjoy looking at them and they are a bit more aesthetic, I would say. Besides these, I have Carlsbad twinned feldspar suite, which includes only like feldspars that have the Carlsbad twinning. Also, there are two more suites. One of them is a calcium carbonate suite, which would include mostly calcites and some aragonites. And the fifth one is the barite suite, the last one but not the least. Yeah, one of the heaviest minerals, and I enjoy it a lot. So essentially, these are my 5 suites. I would say, yeah, I explained the first two ones. I just love beautiful minerals. I sometimes try to focus myself even more and narrow the collection even more, but I just can't get over some really classic and nice minerals. So I always need to have those two suites that would be just. And besides that, there's like the calcite suite is there because of like how common calcite is, and I just think it has way too much beauty, even though it's pretty common. So you have to focus a lot and be patient and everything to get those right calcites that really show people why common minerals can be amazing. Something similar is happening with barite, but I would say that barite has a lot less really beautiful specimens compared to calcite, but we could argue about that. And regarding the Carlsbad twin feldspars, I have no idea. They can get extremely ugly, but I just love the shape of the two crystals, like the twin crystals, and it just gives me it like I feel like it just wants me to collect it, and I do agree that it can get really ugly, but I love finding them from a lot of localities. Some of them can be really aesthetic. For example, like one of my favorite things is Carlsbad twin feldspar orthoclasm or from Erongo, from Namibia, which is associated with aquamarine crystals, and it can look really amazing. And yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to show you some of these pretty soon.
Yes, it's great to show, that you show the diversity and of the localities that produce Carlsbad twins, because I think that's something unique. So now let's move on to your favorites. You have some, you have a great eye for aesthetics, but first let's discuss how you pick a specimen.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, essentially, regarding the favorites, I don't think any collector really has favorites. Even when you like, how would a general conversation with a collector look like? You ask him about a few favorites. He tells you, of course, let me show you a few favorites. Then he picks one, then he picks the second one, then he picks four more, then 20 more. Then he tells you, oh, I have some more favorites in my drawers. And he ends up like pulling you all around the house and showing you all his favorites. Then you end up like if you count them up, it ends up being like 120 favorites. So it's something similar with me. I always tell everyone I don't really have favorites, but I do have some like specimens I consider more close to my heart and more aesthetic ones. Essentially, how do I pick them? I always try to find them to be like compact as possible. So the smaller they are, but contain more, I love them the most. Like if there's a bit of matrix and the perfect crystal on top, that's the right aesthetics for me for sure. That's a no miss for me. So essentially, I always love them having a bit of matrix, how they're extracted from the nature, and one a larger crystal or a smaller one next to it on top of the matrix, and that's like perfect aesthetics for me. Now, there's millions of specimens, like thousands of mineral species, so that's not possible for every crystal. So I'm okay with some nicer clusters as well that are small and the crystals are spread out really nicely. So I would say that like showing a few images of specimens I like would be a good introduction to my general like focus and the aesthetics I look for in minerals. So like you could see on the images shown, a good specimen like that I really like is looks like something like this. For example, the wolfenite that's shown, it has like a really sharp, vibrant red-orange colored crystal on top of some darker matrix, and it has a really wonderful contrast. This specimen is from China, and it was purchased at the Munich Mineral Show just last year, where we met in person as well. So that was the first purchase at the mineral show, and I was carrying around a small specimen that's around a bit larger than 1 centimeter around the whole show. And so I had to make sure to greet everyone and not to break a specimen like this. Besides that, we can see a really nice specimen of orthoclase, like I mentioned a
Wait,
bit
not
earlier.
so fast. Show us the Wolfenite. You have it next to you.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's next to me. I'll show it like this right now. I mean, it's here.
Such
You'll
a
be able to
cute,
see.
such a cute
Yeah,
piece. Perfect aesthetics, an isolated crystal which is undamaged, great color
yeah,
and
that's
sharp
correct.
crystallography, just wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. I usually have a guy that cuts the bases, small bases for me, like custom made for me, 1 centimeter each dimension. So it's really funny seeing me like with 2 meters, like collecting stuff like this. So
Exactly.
while I was at my hometown and while my collection was at my hometown, my dad used to walk around the house, and every time he sees me like playing with these tiny rocks, he's like, "This guy's done. He doesn't have any future or anything." Yeah, but turns out it wasn't really correct. Yeah. So it's always nice seeing them. Like I have to be careful with this one. I actually don't like Wolfenite just because of that reason. There's a really high chance if you ship it, you won't get it in one piece. So it was really great to get it home in this shape.
Wonderful. Just
Yeah,
great.
maybe I should just talk about some of these that are next to me as well. For example, yeah, you'll show the viewers the Wavelite as well.
Yes.
It's of course from Arkansas in USA. So this is the specimen here, also really tiny. You can see the perfect sphere of Wavelite on top. There's like a bit of Wavelite underneath as well. It has some nice contrast, like this Wavelite sphere is a bit darker, so it's pretty nice. And I'm always happy finding specimens like this. I hate when I miss some nice specimens and I don't get them, but turns out a week or two later, a month later, or half a year later, another one that's pretty much better or maybe more affordable or yeah, any other option turns out. And so that would be like a really good advice for everyone that starts collecting as well. You don't have to get everything immediately. Don't miss it if it's a great deal or if you can trade it for something good or anything. But if you're not really sure, a better one will probably turn out. So yeah, another one I would like to show right now is this tiny Herkimer.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a really nice one. And it has a bit of matrix on there. The crystal is flawless on top.
Such
So yeah,
perfect
that's
crystal.
something regarding, yeah, thank you. That's something regarding the thumbnails aesthetics I'm usually looking for. So you can see, I mean, with these three specimens, it's pretty clear what I usually go for. And I try to focus my collection, the thumbnail collection, to look something like this. Can we move on to the orthoclase specimen? I'm
Yes,
excited to
we
tell you
can do
something
this.
about it. So essentially, the orthoclase specimen is like a great example of how I can like orthoclases, and, especially Carlsbad twinned ones. I mean, the specimen has the perfect, flawless, pretty decently colored crystal of aquamarine on top of the twin, the orthoclase twin. So it creates a great balance. Like there's the aquamarine for boring people, and there's the orthoclase for me. So I love the balance. When someone sees it, they say that the aquamarine is amazing, and I'm always looking at the orthoclase twin. So I would say that's the best possible piece from my Carlsbad twin feldspar suite. There's something for everyone in there.
It's
Besides
superb.
these,
I love the
yeah,
texture.
yeah, it's amazing. The side texture, it almost looks like some dragon scales or something. So
Yes.
reptile scales, something. Yeah, it's a really nice specimen. And yeah, I wouldn't show many more orthoclases or feldspars in general. So this like talk doesn't end up being boring. So we can maybe move on to the nice Russian, the Dalnogorsk calcite scepter.
I love that.
That's yeah, that's a photo I'm pretty proud of. Like I mentioned to you, I just enrolled into some really not great photography, mineral photography, for which I got some really nice advices from you as well. So that specimen looks pretty nice, I would say. It's the crystal itself is flawless, and it again shows what can be really special about calcite. Like it's just the luster on it, the how clean it is, how the shape of it. I really think it's a really good example of calcite. The locality produces some great calcites. So yeah, another great example would be the uh, calcite on top of some quartz druzy from the United States. You can see the doubly terminated crystal on top of some matrix. It almost looks like a really nice statue.
Yeah.
And one more would be the like Brazilian calcite included with selenite. I really love regarding it. I love the phantom inside, where everyone's like looking at the specimen and asking me, "What's the green thing inside?" So as much as I love calcite, as much as I love the focus to be on it, it always ends up on the green or red or blue thing. So it's never really the white or yellow calcite, sadly.
Well, it does make sense also because you usually don't see a lot of the inclusions on the big matrix pieces, or generally it's on the matrix but not inside the calcite, or just a little bit. So this one is a very nice example of the how it can be inside also a phantom. So it's a great
Yeah,
specimen.
correct. And it's really nice because of those few side crystals as well that are included as well. So I would say it's a really neat example. And I generally love those Irai crystals. They can be really nice. They sometimes look like some lotus flowers and everything. So I think collectors can see what they want in rocks. Like they sometimes find great things to see in the rocks just to collect them. So people will tell for a rock that doesn't look like a flower, they'll just say, "Oh, it looks like a flower. I have to buy it." So
Yes.
I generally, yeah, I generally support it. It's a good way of like uh, finding a reason to buy a mineral.
Yeah, also into
Besides,
getting into minerals.
yeah, in general, yeah. So besides that, I would point out a really great specimen. It's the barite, which is from the Muddy Creek in Colorado in USA. So the specimen features like a large rhomb of like barite. It has an amazing crystal structure on it with some smaller crystals. It's on a bit of matrix, and there's tiny, much smaller crystal besides that. So essentially, this specimen was purchased for me in the US and by a friend, and it was much larger. So that's one more aspect to collecting that I really like, which is the possibility to trim a mineral. Essentially, I mean, everyone's probably aware of trimming minerals, so you just uh, trim the matrix, make it smaller, and everything to make a better balance of it. This specimen was trimmed by me, and I think I brought the best out of it. So I tried to make it keep just a small part of the matrix for it to be visible enough, but put the focus on the large crystal that's like sitting next to the really small one. And it,
Absolutely. You
for
did a
mine,
great job.
yeah,
I also
thank you so
consider
much.
you as one of the great trimmers of the young minerals
Yeah,
collectors.
I usually trim just the things I'm sure I'll be able to trim. The ones I'm not really sure, I just try to pass on them and like don't touch them as much as I can.
The best
So
trimming
that's like a
tool
really good
is this it's a bolt cutter.
yeah, yeah, it's a safe option. Yeah. So essentially, I would say that's a really good example as well of the aesthetics I go for. This specimen doesn't have a great color. This specimen isn't like the most vibrant thing, but it has such a nice luster, such a good texture, such a good shape, a
Yes,
bit of
exactly.
matrix.
The
I would say,
geometry
yeah,
that stands out from the matrix that's instantly catches the eye. That's also the one thing that I love about minerals, the perfect geometrical shape on a rough, formless, shapeless matrix. So that's
that's
wonderful.
correct. And it's always good to hear when people tell you like, "Oh, that can be natural." And that's the point where you start explaining, and that's the beauty of mineral collecting, where you tell them, "Oh, indeed it can." Like, and then you give an explanation about the minerals, how they form, where they are from. So I always think, even if it's not a great color, if it has a really good crystal structure and like shape and everything, it can be a really interesting specimen. This barite proves exactly that, in my opinion. Some of the like other specimens that I would focus on, like just explain them a bit more, is probably one of them is probably the mimetite. It's the botryoidal mimetite from San Pedro, from Mexico. I got that specimen pretty recently, so I got it from a good friend, Jonathan, and he provided this specimen to me, but like regretted it next week. Uh, how did the story work? Well, essentially, I asked him if he could like forward one nice mimetite to me, sell it, trade it, or anything. He ended up showing me this one, but it was a bit dirty, like it wasn't really cleaned well from the previous collector and everything, and he decided he would sell it to me. I bought it, and he told me, "Oh, is it okay if I clean it a bit more?" I, of course, agreed to it. Turns out it ended up being much better than we all thought it would be, and then he instantly regretted the decision to sell it. But like as good friends do, like Jonathan did, he of course forwarded it to me, and it's now in my collection.
That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty good, and it's really nice seeing specimens this good. Actually, like the period I talked to you about the first amethyst and start of collecting, maybe half a year in collecting or a year, I used to go like around those mineral Facebook groups and everything, and I always used to see some really nice San Pedro mimetites. And I always wanted one, but they can get really expensive. So it literally took me 10 years to find one I really like, which is this one. And when I got it, I instantly felt the whole emotions, like all the emotions from the previous 10 years of wanting it. So I literally am really happy every time I see it right now. I have it just for like a month or two, but every time I see it, it makes me happy. So I think it's for now only explainable to people inside the hobby, like what we feel when we get the mineral we really wanted and we really looked forward to. So I think that's something you have to get involved in the hobby to like feel it 100%.
Oh yeah, that's fabulous. That's great to have
Yeah.
something that you really like, always going by the showcase and seeing, oh yes, this is the one, that crystal. I love it.
Yeah. You keep repeating, I want it, but I can't have it. I want it. I really want it. I can't have it. Turns out a few years later, sometimes weeks later, you have it in your case and it's just unbelievable.
Nothing is impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that's a great advice for everyone. Yeah.
You like colorful minerals from what we see. I mean, lots of yellow, blue. So, what's your favorite color? And does it have to do something with it?
Yeah, actually, my favorite color, something similar like with minerals. I don't really have a favorite. If I had to pick one, it would actually be black.
What?
But but I don't like any black minerals. I mean, that's a really, yeah, statement, like really serious statement. But I'm not really into sulfides. I'm not really like into a lot of black minerals. But yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with my general preference towards colors. But I would say a colorful display just triggers something in your brain. Like when you see the display, some people, some like YMC friends and everyone, they have the collection sorted by colors. And
Oh,
it's always nice to see it. For some reason in the brain, it does something to you. Like when you see the like rows in the cases that have like the red color than the green one or something, it does something to your brain. It does affect you much better than a full case of like white and yellow calcite. I do definitely agree with that. So for that reason, I always love seeing like get a box full of minerals. You'll always like look at the colorful one first. So
yes.
I completely understand it. So I always try to like make a collection that will be attractive to other people as well. I don't do it only to please someone visiting my collection or something, but I just feel like the interaction, the whole interaction with collectors and non-collectors can be much better if the like display is attractive and someone really wants to stand there for 5 or 10 or half an hour or like an hour. So I think that could be a really good thing for your collection to like make it a bit colorful if you prefer that.
Absolutely. Do you have any preferred colors in the mineral world?
In the mineral world, actually, I do believe so. Yeah, I think the red ones, the blue ones, and the green ones can be really attractive when they're vibrant.
Yeah.
The yellow ones can be interpreted a bit bad. Like, I wouldn't say those kind of golden calcites and everything are really the yellow you look for in the collection. They
Like
sometimes end up
anglesites,
being,
for example.
yeah, Anglicite is great, like a really good Brazilianite, probably a good sulfur. That's probably the most vibrant yellow thing I've ever seen in a case, in my case. And for example, when I visited Madrid, Spain, there is a Museo de Geominero or something like that, a big geological museum, and it has a part of the museum with only sulfur from Sicily. So when you look at it, it's almost like looking in the sun. It's like really bright, contrasting to the white aragonite on the matrix. It can be really whoa. I think I have like 30 pictures of just that part from the museum. So yeah, since then I know that it can really be attractive to have a good sulfur and good bright yellow thing in your case. That's the same thing with my case right now. I do have a tiny sulfur on aragonite, and I would say it could be the brightest option. But yeah, I would usually say it's reddish colors, blue and green ones that are really attractive to the collector. So yeah,
I
that's
absolutely agree
essentially
with you. The red
yeah.
rhodochrosite and running, I mean, that's no one can everyone likes it. That's just
Yeah, but also red ones are not that easy to find for your collection
yeah,
to
that's
like
also
look
true.
at it.
The rarity also speaks to it.
Yeah,
And
that's correct.
you have also quite a diversity of shapes of the crystals, obviously. I've seen you showed me multiple spherical ones, like botryoidal. Do you like round minerals, or do you prefer a spiky starburst?
Uh, I don't have a. I would just say I love the perfect shapes. So if they're spherical, if they're botryoidal, I love to see a perfect ball on top of some matrix. If they're like acicular and like radial, I love seeing radial and acicular minerals. They're amazing. But the problem with them is I usually skip them. I usually don't get them because they're so fragile And like every time I handle them, I like handling the minerals. I sometimes forget about the mineral, and then I'm like roaming around my house and I just say, oh my god, what's happening with the, I don't know, ferrite from my collection? And then I head over to my case to see if it's still as beautiful as I remember it. So yeah, I always like to handle the minerals always carefully, not too much, but with the secular and radial minerals, it can be a mess. Like move one or two times to another place to live or something, and they're done. So that's what I don't like about them, but I love the shape of and looks of vesicular minerals. But yeah, botryoidal ones are really amazing as well. I love seeing the like bubbles, or if there's only one crystal like that's spherical, that's amazing. Besides that, I also love cubic minerals a lot. It took me years to like process in my head how nice the Spanish pyrites can be and pyrites in general. Like for example, the Navajun pyrites, they can get so sharp, so wonderful, and it took me years to believe they can be even remotely natural. Yeah, so that's something that's again with like with the color, it triggers something in my brain. I first didn't believe amethyst was real, then I didn't believe like crystals shaped that nice are real, but yeah, they definitely are, and they definitely are something amazing nature produces. So it's always super weird to see something so perfect without any interference of anyone to make it look like that. So nature is really amazing.
Yeah, perfect shapes always fascinate people, especially
Yeah.
if you're just starting the hobby and they see this perfect cube. They say, "No, that can't be that can't be natural."
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
correct.
great. It's just great.
I had a really nice experience with like helping a friend that's a mineral dealer with his wood. He made me like a mineral specialist or something, which I'm not really. And I used to help younger people and people visiting the booth with like explaining them stuff, what is what and everything. So there was like on one side there were perfect Nahum pyrites, perfect cubes, which were like 6 or 7 euros each. And on the other side, probably because he bought them more expensive, some Bulgarian like tiny clusters that weren't really great, and they were probably on a spot which was having some like water or like some humidity, and they were almost starting to fall apart, and they were like 15 euros each. And because of people didn't believe the Spanish pyrites are natural, they always got those terrible ones, which are much more expensive. And I tried to explain them like, no, these are natural. These are they liked the cubes more, but they thought they were fake. I couldn't even explain to them that they are natural, so they all got the worst pyrites. So yeah, that's a really good example of how education and like some common mineral knowledge can help with collecting in general.
That's a great story. Yeah, and I mean, you have a really beautiful collection. Like every single mineral that you showed me, I love it. And
Thank
I do think your collection stands out. But what do you think? How does a collection stand out? Like, what are the criteria to for a collection to be a top collection?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did see quite a few collections. Like, as you mentioned in the start, in my home country, there's not a lot of people collecting minerals. Even when they do, I always support every collector, but we could debate what a good collection is and what is a beginner's collection and everything. I would say the main thing about a collection standing out is the way it displayed, in my opinion. Like I've seen really decent and really good collections that don't stand out because they're not displayed properly. They're all in drawers or they're all covered in dust or they are, yeah, I had some really, I would say interesting but also sad anecdotes where I visit a collector and his collection is like covered in like a few millimeters of dust, and you literally have to wipe it off with your hand to see any minerals underneath. Yeah, you see a regular boulder or something when you wipe it off, wipe the like dust off it with your hand, you see a perfect boulder opal from Australia, which is amazing. It has like those concentrical circles of opal. It looks amazing, but like just the way of presenting makes it really bad.
These are some
So yeah,
wise words. Yeah,
yeah.
because you
I,
will. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, sorry. I think it's really important how you display your collection, and it's a constant process, but you have to have a way and an idea where you're going and what you're doing with it.
From all the pictures or the videos that you showed me, your display cases are very simple and very uh, aesthetically placed inside. The minerals are very aesthetically placed inside. From they have all uniform bases. The sizes are usually almost the same, and it's simple and perfect. So this is another point. I mean, you always do your cases yourself. That's one thing.
Yeah,
But I always recommend collectors to invest in a case because just putting them away in storage or even in boxes. I mean, if you just pull out a drawer and there are a lot of thumbnails, that's okay. But some do really have like really packed up, as if you just bought it from a person and they shipped it to you,
yeah,
somewhere stored. That's not how you present a collection. Or no, of course, in dust it's even worse. But yeah,
yeah.
so
You're absolutely correct. I sometimes like to say that no one will treat your minerals better than you do, and that's my honest opinion. Like every mineral you have in your collection, it's most likely no one else will take it from you and treat it better. So I think you should do it the best possible way, like you can. You should like give it a proper treatment. Yeah, even when a next collector gets it from you, like he might treat it better, but he might not. So I always like presenting them just as if they're going to stay with me till the end of my life. So I think they do deserve that like treatment because how they present you with their beauty, it's a must for you to like present them in that beauty to someone else as well. So that's why I think displaying them is really important, displaying them properly.
absolutely right. Yes, very well said. I absolutely agree with you. That's great. So, do you have any special project you might tell us about?
Oh, yeah, indeed. Well, as for most of us, this is just a hobby for me. It's turned out to be much more than a hobby for me. So essentially, I look at my job as a way of financing the rest of my life, including the hobby. But yeah, this is still a hobby for me. So as work, I'm a software engineer and I work in a software engineering company right now. And I try to use my skills properly to like develop something that's good for minerals. So right now with three ex-colleagues, I'm trying to work on a platform for minerals. Yeah,
Like a
I won't
cataloging
go into
program.
something like that. Yeah, essentially it will be something like mineral gallery sharing between collectors where you could see like other people's collections, like see how they're stored, how they're like organized into suites and stuff like that. So yeah, that's essentially what I'm trying to work on and trying to invest my like general university knowledge in programming into something mineral related. So that's a project I'm really looking forward to, and I really hope my obligations and work will allow me some time to have it done by some stage, by some moments, or yeah,
Wow, exciting. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great. I'm really looking forward to it.
yes,
That's wonderful.
yeah. We'll try and get it done.
Also, I have to thank you personally again for making my website because if any one of you wants a website done, you can contact Philip and he might work out a deal with you for
Yeah,
displaying your collection.
yeah. He might hopefully have some time to help you with that. Yeah,
And since you're a member of YMC, a very, well, let's say famous member of YMC. What did YMC bring to you as a collector?
Uh, I don't want to exaggerate, but yeah, I think it brought me everything in the mineral collecting. I wouldn't really say it like if you asked me directly, I couldn't even explain what it brought to me. Like it got me first of all great friendships, great mineral people, people with from all around the world and all kinds of different ways of collecting and collections. So I would say it brought me a completely different view and perspective to mineral collecting. Until then, I thought I'm alone in the mineral hobby, not in terms of people. I knew people collected, but I didn't have anyone to directly approach for some advices, some way of collecting, some honest opinions or something. But when I got involved in YMC, it completely changed my approach to it, and I finally realized that a lot of people besides me don't have the great budget, don't have all the minerals in the world, don't have some ancestors that left them a million minerals they can sell, trade, make a collection from. So that really gave me a push, a really good boost. And I think it was an essential thing for for collecting, and I think it's a really good thing to get involved with. And I would especially thank Gavan, which was in the leadership of YMC and the like founder of the whole YMC, for even redirecting me to the whole Facebook group and the community and everything, which completely changed the way of my collecting. And I would say, like when you play those games and you get those boosts, like times five, times 10, that speed up some process or experience or something. I think that happened with my with YMC, and I had some dilemmas in my head, but I couldn't turn them to something real. But when I saw some same issues on YMC and everything, it just made my head clear and what I want to do and where to go. So I would say YMC played an essential role in my collecting, especially the last 2 or 3 years.
That's great. Yeah, we're all a big family that are very friendly and always love the social interaction.
Yeah,
Um, Talking
that's
about
correct.
budget, you mentioned budget lots of times today. You
Yeah,
are like your budget on a one single rock is always under 100 euros. This is
yeah.
only possible, I guess, because of size or like it's also always in today in 2024, it's the market has shifted, I think, towards well, yeah, inflation, and everything has become very expensive, but you managed to keep up with it. So how?
Well, essentially, I would say that the limit is usually 50. But yeah,
That's
I
the
agree with
lowest.
you. I always like to say like 100 because I'm ready to drop 100 on a really nice mineral, but turns out I never do. So it's almost always under 50. And I really managed to do it in the end. Like it's not that hard for me, but I do have to put a lot of effort into it. And it's like 90% of minerals or 95% of minerals I like, I have to pass on them because if I start going above my budget, I'll never go back. So I'm not really ready to do it. There were moments when I was in like primary school where I have like 10 euros a month or 5 euros a month or none. So like when you have 10 euros a month and you want one rock, if you get a wrong one or one you don't like, that's it for the month. You wait for the next one or for 3 months or four. You don't have much time for mistakes. And from that, I learned that you really have to be careful about your minerals. So right now, when I work and have some like salary or some somewhat normal budget for minerals, I still like to keep the same mindset because, like any money you drop on a mineral you don't really like, I would say it's wasted money. You can resell it, you can gift it, you can trade it and everything, but you didn't fulfill what you really wanted. So I always like to be careful, and I always like to wait for like another specimen that I think, if I think it can be more affordable. Of course, some people have a really narrow focus and specific, and you can't really pass on everything because it's a bit more expensive. But in my case, looking for like some really tiny thumbnails. I had some really good experiences for myself with them. Like some people break off part of their rock accidentally, and it turns out to be a perfect thumbnail for myself. And they keep the larger part, which I don't like, and give me the small part for like €2 or free or something. So I'm always ready to look for specimens like that. With miniatures, it's a bit more hard because you can't really accidentally drop a rock and it turns out a perfect miniature. At least it's not common for me to see. So I always like to wait for the right minerals and to disclaim to people what I look for. So you should be pretty clear about your budget and everything. And there's people that will happily help with that as well.
That's I sorry. That's very important also to understand for the young viewers, for the young beginners. So thank you for saying that. Another,
Yeah, I think I'm sorry for interrupting, but
no,
yeah,
no,
that should definitely be a big disclaimer, like a note. If you can get it for the first time, you shouldn't give up. If you can get it for the second time, don't give up. At one moment, I don't want to sound like those motivational speakers, but you definitely will get a moment for yourself and you definitely will find it. If you don't get it with your budget, there will be a collector or a seller that will understand your passion and what you want, what you need. He'll lower the price. He'll maybe gift it to you. He'll offer a trade. He'll do something, but don't give up. Like I started with a few euros a month. I'm not much better right now. I'm not like saying that like I have 10 companies right now and I can buy anything I want, but it turns out to be much better every year. So at one moment you get one rock you always wanted, then you get the second rock you always wanted. A few years later, you realize that you have a whole collection of stuff you never believed you can have. So you should trust the process and wait for it to happen.
absolutely, absolutely right. Also,
Yeah.
another option the for people to obtain rocks is not only to buy them, but to also field collect them. And this is the last topic that I want to open. You in Serbia, there's well, first of all, there aren't a lot of people that know that in Serbia there are minerals from
Yeah.
outside, I mean. So hearing that you collected some really cool specimens or minerals in general also, yeah, um, that's interesting. So tell us a story that you could tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, well, essentially, yeah, people get really confused and surprised when they even hear Serbia has minerals, but it does have quite a few minerals. I did go to a few field trips, and I like going to the field trips when I find time with work and everything. It's pretty much harder to go to any field trips, but I used to go to quite a few. Like, for example, we were the first ones to open a quartz pocket on the Rudnik mountain. Rudnik means mine in Serbia, so it's mine mountain. We opened the pocket, we named it, and I even have a photo from that find, like in the Minrec edition, like the Minrec magazine, with my scepter I found there on Matrix and everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was a really nice find, and we opened the pocket, not even knowing what to expect there because no one else tried it. And of course, after some bleedy hands from the sharp quartz and underneath some huge boulders and everything, we started pulling out like tens and hundreds of quartz points with really nice scepters and everything. So it was a really nice experience. The interesting thing is like you probably do know about those Russian quartzes that had some like leaves of calcites on them, and then they etched away, and they get left with some like
Yeah.
scars and marks like
They're
that.
like they're called in the selling spectrum on the market. They're called tectonic
Tonic
cores, but it's yeah,
is
it's there was some mineral that was etched away, which leaves a very
different.
interesting texture. Yes.
Almost an almost identical situation is with the Rudnik Mountain. All quartz crystals have those scars and can be like looking like they're without termination, but just the termination is like a bit moved and everything. They look really similar, and I do believe no one knows about them around the world. So there is a cool mountain, the Cer mountain, which is historically really important for Serbia, for the battles that took place there and everything. It has some really nice aquamarines, burials in general. So aquamarines from there can be really wonderful and associated with garnets, with like orthoclase, with muscovite, with stuff like that. There's even a few radioactive minerals on that mountain, so it's really nice to visit as well. Fruška Gora mountain, I also visited it. A lot of like chalcedony, some geodes and stuff like that. So there's definitely a few spots to visit. The most interesting thing would probably be my first field trip at the Cer mountain, where I was super excited. I watched all the YouTube shows and the shows where people find crystals and everything, and I thought you just go for the first time and you find a million crystals. They're all over the place and everything. Turns out we visited, it was raining heavily. The roads don't look like those in the cities when you go to a mountain or anything. So it was mud like almost to our ankles, and yeah, finding aquamarines isn't really wonderful when it's weather like that. So I ended up with like two tiny barrels, which I was really happy about because I thought I would get back home with nothing in my hands. But yeah, so the first field trip showed me what a real field trip looks like. So I think every collector should experience a field trip, but also not raise his expectations high because he can get disappointed. But every mineral, the problem with me is rarely any mineral I find fits my aesthetic preferences. So I always end up gifting those specimens I find. I only have like 20 or 30 specimens from my field trips, and I gift the other ones. So I never raise my expectations for the field trips. I do it for a completely different reason than the one why I collect. So I have some minerals. I would say I tried to think about it quite a bit, and I would say I have two groups of minerals. One is the minerals I love and I collect, and one is the minerals I love and I don't collect. So I can enjoy your minerals, my minerals, someone else's minerals, but I don't have to like get them for my collection. I don't have to like them for my collection, but I definitely will enjoy them. I usually collect minerals up to 8 centimeters from like 0.5 centimeters, but I'll always be more than happy to look at the like 20 or 30 centimeter specimen that has like a great arrangement and everything. I will never buy it for myself because my preferences are different, but I'll definitely enjoy it, maybe even more than the ones I get for myself.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
always love the diversity.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Always so nice seeing some new minerals.
and also I remember the one story that you told me once about the aquamarine that your friend found. That's
Oh yeah, yeah.
is that the best aquamarine from Serbia?
That's definitely the best one I've ever seen from that mountain. Or yeah, from Serbia in general. There's a few more spots with some barrels, but I'm not sure how good they are. Like, but Cer is definitely the best place for aquamarine, and that's definitely the best aquamarine I've ever seen found there. And to this day, I'm trying to buy it from him. We were collecting together. He found a pocket from that had a really nice crystal in it, like a tiny bit of feldspar. I do believe it's albite, and on top there's like a really sharp, flawless aquamarine crystal. I tried to convince him for quite some time to sell it to me, to trade it with me, to anything. but he had a really good response. He never told he doesn't want to sell it. He always told me, when I found one remotely as good as this one, I'll forward it to you. And he never did, so it's still with him to this day. I still don't lose my hopes that I'll get it one day, though.
We all hope that you get it. That would be really
Yeah,
cool. And how's the
I hope
situation?
the next,
Hmm?
yeah, I hope the next video will do and the next talk will do. I'll be able to show you the aquamarine like this. Yeah.
And what's the situation in Serbia about the mining? So can you go freely to the mountain and just dig, or do you have to get some special um, passes or ask the property management?
Well, essentially, those fields where we usually collect aren't really in someone's property. So I would say they're quite unregulated. So we just don't ask. We try to get the least as possible minerals we can and not disturb anyone. It ends up being more like a field trip. We rarely, exception is like one or two spots, but we rarely try to dig at all. We usually walk by the pots and try to collect the stuff we can find on the way there.
Oh, okay, great.
So yeah, without disturbing any land or someone who holds the property or anything. So that's the situation for now.
Oh, so after the rain, for example, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's great.
It can be really nice to go looking for the barrels and everything after the rain. They like pop out, they shine, and you can find them. You don't have to dig for them or anything. So yeah, that's the status for now
And
regarding
also
that.
probably enjoy the sun and the views. I hope there are some views
Always.
there.
Yeah, there's not. I adore minerals. I'm really in love with them and everything. But there's nothing better when it's really sunny and you're in the nature. You hear the birds and you just lay down for a short nap or relaxation or something. I always like to claim that I'm much more tired than I am, just to take a short break and to lay down and enjoy the nature. So always a great combination. I don't like going into extremes, even with minerals. I always like to stay inside certain boundaries. So that's the same with the field trips. I always like to enjoy the minerals, but I also like to enjoy the nature, the whole trip, the people I go to the trip with. So yeah, should find balance.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for explaining everything. Thank you so much for this talk. You're
Well,
absolutely a wonderful individual and you have a fantastic collection. So thank you very much.
likewise, thank you so much for having me here. I really enjoyed the session and I hope we'll do something like this again.
Thank you for watching this episode of Under the Radar. You can check out today's guest through the links in the description below. Tune in next month for another episode and don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any new uploads. Take care and we'll see you next time.